Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. After a 2-week hiatus, it is a hazy Sunday afternoon in Salem, Oregon. Today is September 11th, 2022, and Bethea's Byte is back, and it's reloaded. Hi guys, so good to be back here with you all. Ernest Bethea, the Last Outlaw here. And yes, like I said, I've been away for 2 weeks. I've been recharging my batteries, getting my mind ready, getting my health all together. And today I can say with a big smile on my face, okay, I reloaded. This is Bethea's Byte Reloaded, your home for news, opinions, debates, your voice, and justice served. Again, so glad to have everyone watching. And if you're watching the replay, I'm so glad to have you all with me too. Today, I've got a lot of things to cover. I want to talk about this North Carolina couple who are charged with first-degree murder in the death of their newborn baby. I want to cover the entire Jodi Arias trial if I can. But first, I want to address some comments. But before I address these comments, let me say thank you to all of my viewers, all of my subscribers. I've said this once, I've said this over 1,000, maybe more times, that you are what make Bethea's Byte run. Period. So guys, thank you so much. What I want to do is address comments stemming from last month's Byte when I was covering Casey Anthony and what her life is like today, and what had happened during her murder trial. So, if I can, what I'm going to do is pull up some comments made by one of the viewers. Tire Biter is his name, and we had a pretty good back and forth over it, and this is how that started. I can go ahead and give you the whole shebang about it. Tire Biter said, cut the crap. Why would someone want to kill Kaylee? How do we know that someone else hasn't killed her? What was the cause of Kaylee's death? Was Kaylee raped before she died? Does Casey tell the truth about anything? You have to have answers to all these questions, or we can't be certain what happened. Okay, let me start with this. First my response online, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cover that in a nutshell. My response online was, since when has Casey Anthony told the truth about anything? To answer the first question, all you have to do is look at Casey's tattoo, then her life today. Now let me explain what I mean. Throughout the entire case, leading up to the trial, Casey Anthony has never told the truth about anything. In fact, she started the trial off with a lie. Saying that her father sexually abused her. Now, come on, man. Everybody knew. Everybody in that courtroom knew. Everybody in that courtroom and their mama knew Casey was lying in. So the first question: what was the cause of Casey's death? Well, obviously, according to the autopsy, it was homicide. If you also remember that when they found Kaylee's remains, remember they found duct tape around her mouth with a heart-shaped sticker. They also found chloroform in her system. Now, think about this. If you think about it, who else are you really going to blame this on? You can't blame it on a nanny, because if you paid attention to many of the interviews, Zanata Gonzalez, real person, doesn't know Casey Anthony nor Kaylee from Eve. Was Kaylee raped before she died? I'll agree with you on this. We don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure. But what we do know is that Kaylee is dead. We know it took 30 days before anybody, much less Casey, reported her missing. Somehow her Casey's car was missing. Who finds it? Mama. She opens up the trunk, and she even said it, and I quote, "I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's a dead body in the damn car." Quote, end quote. So, the next comment about Tire Biter, Casey is always lying. She is a compulsive liar. If Casey confessed, we would know she is innocent. My response to that online was, I'm not denying that Casey is a liar. And today, I am not denying that Casey Anthony is a liar. You know how you can tell when Casey's lying? Watch her lips, as long as they're moving. I even said that online. You can tell she's lying when her lips are moving. Kaylee's death was ruled a homicide. There was no evidence of sexual assault. And again, all signs point to Casey because she'd rather be clubbing than being a mom. Again, I point to the tattoo, La Bella Vita, the beautiful life. It's one without Casey being tied down with a child. Now, if you also remember that edition of the Byte, Casey said she wants to have another child. Really? She doesn't. She doesn't look like she wants to have another child because she's still doing her own thing, and still not considered the fact of what happened with her first child. Now, Tire Biter comes back with another comment. Kaylee was taken care of by Casey's parents when Casey was doing something else. Okay, I'll give you that. But if Casey had been a responsible mother, George and Cindy, Casey's parents, wouldn't have to play Kaylee's parents while Casey is off clubbing, partying, living la bella vida. Sorry, Ricky Martin. Tire Biter goes on to say that what I'm talking about is a prosecutor's theory based on the case of Diane Downs. Now, hold up. This is where your boy has to do a little digging. Diane Downs, right? Diane Downs. Now, according to Tire Biter, Diane Downs was a mother who shot her 3 children. First off, let me go ahead and hit you up with this. Any person that shoots their 3 children dead, they're not a parent. They're not a father. They're not a mother. They're a monster. Let's get that straight. Diane's lover didn't want to marry her because he didn't want to raise another man's children. Fine, fine, I get that. I'll get that. That all the single parents out there, let me go ahead and hit you up with this. You find a guy, find a nice guy, but he doesn't want to raise another man's children. You and your children are a package deal. If if he doesn't want you because of the kids, bye. Leave him alone. He ain't the one. But that's another issue. So let's see what I got. Elizabeth Diane Downs, American criminal who murdered her daughter and attempted to murder her two other children in Springfield, Oregon. Yeah, right in my neck of the woods. In May of '83. Following the crime, she made claims to police that a man attempted to carjack her and had shot the children. She was convicted in '84 and sentenced to life in prison plus 50 years. Briefly escaped in '87, but was quickly recaptured. Denied parole in December '08, December 2010, and in 2020. Yeah. Yeah, yes. So let's see. Going back to your theory here. So your Diane Downs case, Casey Anthony case. Don't think so. Oh, these are two totally different cases. Casey was not with a guy who she wanted to marry, and she wasn't thinking about killing her kids for that fact. Let me say this again. I'm going back to the tattoo. The tattoo is the kicker right there. She wanted to live the beautiful life, la bella vita. That's Italian for the beautiful life. And the beautiful life for Casey Anthony is one where she's not tied down with a child. She wanted to party. She wanted to go out clubbing. That was Casey Anthony's MO. She can't live that life with with um with all the responsibilities of being a mom. She can't live La Bella Vita as long as she's tied down with a child. So, what does she do? What does she do? This is my theory. She knocks Kaylee out with the chloroform. She wraps her mouth up with duct tape with a heart-shaped sticker. Kaylee's breathing in that stuff until we find out she breathed too much of it. Kaylee dies. Meanwhile, Casey's out clubbing. She's partying. She's having a good time. Some 30 days later, she decides it's time to report Kaylee missing. Come on, man. Moving on with your statement. There's a long period of time when Kaylee was dead but not embalmed. Of course not. You can't embalm the doctors, the morticians or whatever. They can't embalm a body if they don't have the body. So there's no way of knowing that Kaylee wasn't raped. Again, there's no evidence of such. If there was evidence of a rape, the autopsy would have told it. Pregnancy and having a baby turns a teenage girl into a mother. We can assume that Kaylee was more important to Casey than anything else. To which I said this online, and I stand by it here live. If Ty Biter's last statement was true on that, Kaylee would be alive today and thriving as a 12-year-old. But that's not the case. So, in the whole thing of where Casey is now, he's probably taking it back to the case and saying she's probably somewhere that is the place she said that is not the place she said she was. Maybe not. All I know is she's doing her thing now. She got away with it. She's calling herself flying under the radar. But she wants to have another child. Fellas, beware of this woman. If you even think of hooking up with her, beware. She wants to have another child with you. And once she gets to that point where she wants to start partying again, all the responsibility is on you. Thanks for the comments, Tire Biter. Thank you for just bringing this back around. I've been waiting for somebody to jump on this, and it was a pretty good back and forth. Now let's talk about Jodi Arias and her murder of Travis Alexander. Now, keep this in mind. When I covered Casey Anthony, ladies and gentlemen, I remember describing her as being touted as the most hated woman in America. Casey Anthony, if that's the case, she may hold on to the title of the most hated woman in America. Jodi Arias, on the other hand, could go for a close number 2. Let's go over the case of the death of Travis Alexander. Travis Alexander, he was an American salesman who was murdered by his ex-girlfriend Jodi Arias in his house in Mesa, Arizona. Jodi was convicted of first-degree murder on May 8, 2013, sentenced to life in prison without a possibility of parole on April 13th. At the time of the murder. Now, this is what got me. At the time of the murder, Travis Alexander suffered 27 to 29 knife wounds. Yeah, 27 to 29 knife wounds. Let me get all this up on screen for you guys. All right, here we go. 27 to 29 knife wounds and a gunshot to the head. But what they're not telling you was one other injury he suffered. His throat was slashed smiley faced. Anyway, Jodi Arias testified that she killed him in self-defense. But The jury convicted her as it sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The murder and trial received widespread media attention here in the U.S. Here's the background. Travis Alexander moved in with his dad. Let's not worry about that. Let's go right to what happened. Travis Alexander was murdered on June 4th of 2008. There we go. There it is. He suffered 27 to 29 stab wounds, a slit throat, and a gunshot wound to the head. Medical examiner Kevin Horn would later testify that Alexander's jugular vein, common carotid artery, and trachea had all been slashed, and he had defensive wounds on his hands. Horn further testified that Alexander may have been dead at the time the gunshot was inflicted, and that the back wounds were shallow. Alexander's death was ruled a homicide. He is currently buried. He is buried at Riverside's Olivewood Memorial Park Cemetery. The investigation in early 2008, Alexander told acquaintances that Jodi Arias would join him for a work-related trip to Cancun, scheduled for June 15th. In April, Alexander asked to change his travel companion to another female friend, Marie Hall. On May 28th, a burglary occurred at the residence of Arias' grandparents with whom Jodi was living. Among the missing objects was a handgun chambered in .25 caliber, which was never recovered. This later became significant as a shell case from a spent .25 caliber round was found near Travis's body at the murder scene. June 2nd, between 1 and 3 a.m., Jodi called Travis 4 times but did not appear to reach him, as the longest of the call durations was 17 seconds. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Travis called Jodi twice, first time for 18 minutes, the second time for 41 minutes. At 4:03, Jodi called Travis again. The call lasted only 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Neither of these calls nor their transcripts were presented in the trial. 5:39 a.m. Jodi drove south to rent a car for a long trip to Utah, as evidenced by a gasoline purchase in Eureka. June 2nd, 8:04 a.m. Jodi rented a car in Redding, California, and indicated that she would return the car to the same location. Jodi visited friends in Southern California on her way to Utah for a PPL work conference and to meet with Ryan Burns, a co-worker. By late evening, June 3rd, Jodi had apparently set out for Salt Lake City. Travis missed an important conference call on the evening of June 4th. The following day, Jodi met Burns in the Salt Lake City suburb of West Jordan and attended business meetings for the conference. Burns later said that he noticed Jodi formerly had blonde hair, now she has dark brown, and that she had cuts on her hands. June 6th, she left Salt Lake City and drove west toward California. She called Travis several times and left several voicemail messages for him. She also accessed his cell phone voicemail system. When Jodi returned the car on June 7th, it had been driven about 2,800 miles. The rental clerk testified that the car was missing its floor mats and had red stains on its front and rear seats. However, it could not be verified that the car had floor mats when Jodi had picked it up, and the red stains could not be analyzed, as the car was cleaned before police could examine it. June 9th, having been unable to reach Travis, a concerned group of friends went to his home. His roommates had not seen him for several days, but they believed he was out of town and thus didn't suspect anything was amiss. After finding a key to his bedroom, the group entered and found large pools of blood in the hallway to the master bathroom and Travis's body in the shower. In the 911 call, which wasn't heard by the jury, the dispatcher asked whether Alexander had been suicidal or if anyone was angry enough to hurt him. Travis's friends mentioned Jodi by name as a possible suspect, stating that Travis had told them that she had been stalking him, accessing his Facebook account, and slashing his car's tires. While searching Travis's home, police found his recently purchased digital camera damaged in the washing machine. Police were able to recover deleted images showing Travis and Jodi in sexually suggestive poses taken at approximately 1:40 in the afternoon on June 4th. A final photograph of Alexander alive showing him in the shower was taken at 5:29 in the afternoon that day. Photos taken moments later show an individual believed to be Travis profusely bleeding on the bathroom floor. A bloody palm print was discovered along the wall in the bathroom hallway. It contained DNA from both Jodi and Travis. On July 9, 2008, Jodi Arias was indicted by a grand jury in Maricopa County, Arizona, for the first-degree murder of Travis Alexander. She was arrested at her home 6 days later and was extradited to Arizona on September 5th. She pled not guilty on September 11th. During this time, she provided several different accounts about her involvement in Alexander's death. She first told police that she had not been in Mesa on the day of the murder and had last seen Alexander in March 2008. Arias later told police that two intruders had broken into Travis's home, murdering him and attacking her. 2 years after her arrest, she told police that she killed Alexander in self-defense, claiming that she had been a victim of domestic violence. And I looked at her as she made that claim. I said, yeah, and 50 cents would get me a cup of coffee at a place called Starbucks. For the pre-trial, on April 6, 2009, a motion to reconsider the defendant's motion to disqualify the Maricopa County District Attorney's Office was denied. April 18th, the court ordered Jodi to submit to IQ and competency testing. On January 2011, a defense filing detailed Arias' attorney's efforts to obtain text messages and emails. The prosecution initially told defense attorneys that no text messages that had been sent or received by Travis were available, but the prosecution was then ordered to turn over several hundred such messages. Mesa Police Department Detective Esteban Flores told defense attorneys that there was nothing out of the ordinary among Travis's emails. About 8,000 were turned over to the defense in June of 2009. So now it is time for what I like to call the main event. The state of Arizona versus Jodi Arias. It would take place at the Superior Court of the state of Arizona in and for the county of Maricopa. There were seven jury members who found Jodi guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and felony murder. The other 5 convicted of first-degree premeditated murder. The sitting judge in the case was the Honorable Sherry K. Stevens. The trial commenced in Maricopa County Superior Court before Judge Stevens. The voir dire proceedings began on December 10th of 2012. On December 20th, Jodi's attorneys argued that the prosecution was systematically excluding women and Black people. Prosecutor Juan Martinez said that race and sex were irrelevant to his decisions to strike certain jurors. Stevens ruled that the prosecution had shown no bias in the jury selection. In the opening arguments on January 2nd, 2013, Martinez sought the death penalty. Arias was represented and appointed by counsel L. Kurt Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot. who argued that Travis's death was a justifiable homicide committed in self-defense. Ryan Burns testified that when Jodi visited him in Utah, the two spent several hours hugging and kissing on a large beanbag chair. She told him that she had cut her hands on broken glass while working at a restaurant in Margaritaville. Ladies and gentlemen, if this was the Maury show, I can easily hear Maury right now saying the lie detector determined that was a lie. But I'm gonna move on. She told him that she had cut her hands on broken glass while working at a restaurant in called Margaritaville. A detective testified that no restaurant by that name had ever existed in the Eureka area. At the time, Jodi was working at a restaurant called Casa Ramos. Arias. Jodi later testified that after she cut her finger, quote, I had a bazillion margaritas to make. Later, the prosecution argued that the presence of a 25 caliber round found near Travis Alexander's body and the theft of a handgun of the same caliber from Arias' residence in Eureka the previous week proved that she had staged the burglary and used the gun to kill Alexander. Martinez claims that Arias had stalked Alexander and had slashed his tires twice. In the final days before his death, Alexander called her a sociopath and, quote, the worst thing that ever happened to me, end quote, and stated that he was afraid of her. Jodi took the stand in her own defense on February 4th, 2013, testifying for a total of 18 days, a duration described by criminal defense attorney Mark Garagos as unprecedented. On the first day of her testimony, Jodi told of being violently abused by her parents from the age of 7. She testified that she had rented a car in Reading because Budget's website provided 2 options, one to the north and one to the south, and her brother lived in Reading. On the second day on the stand, Jodi said her relationship with Travis included oral sex and sodomy. She said that the sodomy was painful the first time she experienced it, and that Alexander believed that such activities would contravene Mormon rules concerning vaginal intercourse. I'm thinking right now, what is this? 50 Shades of Grey? Jodi said that she and Alexander eventually had intercourse, but less often. A phone sex tape was played in court that Jodi had recorded without Travis's knowledge, apparently hoping to use it to embarrass him to his Mormon peers. Jodi also testified that Travis secretly harbored pedophilic desires for both male and female children, and that she tried to help him with these urges. All of a sudden, I hear Maury again. The lie detector determined that was a lie. Forensic experts testified that an examination of Travis's computer found no evidence of pornographic material. Arias testified that her relationship with Alexander became increasingly and emotionally abusive. She said that Alexander shook her while saying, I'm effing sick of you, then began, quote, screaming at me, after which he body slammed me on the floor at the foot of his bed and taunted her, saying, don't act like that hurts, before he called her a B word and kicked her in the ribs. Jodi said that he went to kick her again, and I put my hand out. She held up her left hand in the courtroom, showing that her ring finger was crooked. She claimed that she killed Alexander in self-defense after he had attacked her when she dropped his camera, forcing her to fight for her life. This was Jodi's 3rd different account of the events leading to Travis's death, which prosecutors, courtroom observers, and jurors felt severely damaged her credibility. Rebuttal witnesses called by the prosecution included several of Alexander's other girlfriends who stated that he never exhibited any problems with anger or violence. During the trial, The videotape of a September 2008 Inside Edition interview was played in which Jodi had said, "No jury is going to convict me because I am innocent. You can mark my words on that." Discussing the statement during her testimony, Jodi said at the time of the interview she had plans to commit suicide. So, quote, "I was extremely confident that no jury would convict me because I didn't expect any of you to be here." At the close of cross-examination of Jodi, Juan Martinez replayed the video and prompted Jodi to affirm that she had said during the interview that she would not be convicted because she was innocent. When questioned by Juan Martinez, Jodi was initially combative and flippant, but after several days, Martinez highlighted the possible lies and inconsistencies in her testimony, and she had admitted to stabbing and shooting Alexander despite her earlier claims of a memory lapse. Foreman William Zervakos later expressed an opinion common to jurors and observers when he told ABC's Good Morning America, quote, "I think 18 days hurt her. I think she was not a good witness," end quote. Beginning March 14th, psychologist Richard Samuels testified for the defense for nearly 6 days. He said that Jodi had been likely suffering from acute stress at the time of the murder, sending her body into fight or flight mode to defend herself, which caused her brain to stop retaining memory. In response to a juror's question asking whether this scenario could occur even if this was a premeditated murder, and the prosecution contended, he responded, "Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No." Samuels also diagnosed Jodi with PTSD. Martinez attacked Samuels' credibility, accusing him of bias and having formed a relationship with Jodi. Samuels had previously testified that he had compassion for Jodi. Beginning March 26, Alice Laviolette, a psychiatrist who specializes in domestic violence, testified that Jodi was a victim of domestic abuse and that most victims do not tell anyone because they feel ashamed and humiliated. Laviolette summarized emails from Travis's close friends. Quote, "They have basically advised Jodi to move on from the relationship, that Mr. Alexander has been abusive to women," end quote. The jury posed nearly 160 questions to Laviolette, many of them focusing on Jodi's credibility. Clinical psychologist Janine DeMarte testified for the prosecution, stating that she found no evidence that Travis had abused Arias and no evidence of PTSD or amnesia in Jodi. Furthermore, the total memory loss for long stretches of time that Jodi claimed to have experienced is inconsistent with traumatic amnesia associated with PTSD, which manifests as much shorter gaps in memory. Instead, DeMarte said that Jodi suffered from borderline personality disorder, showing signs of immaturity and, quote, "an unstable sense of identity." I'm going to stop right there. We know, like the Casey Anthony case, we know that every time Jodi Arias opens her mouth, it's a lie. She came up with 3 different accounts as to how Travis Alexander was killed. Really? Come on. Responding to Jodi's testimony about buying a 5-gallon gas can at Walmart in Salinas on June 3rd, 2008, that she returned on the same day. On April 24th, the prosecution called Amanda Webb, a Salinas Walmart store employee, to the stand. Webb said that according to Walmart's records, no one had returned a 5-gallon gas can on that date, and that Jodi returned the gas can 1 week after having purchased it. The gas can evidence was seen as important in establishing premeditation. as the prosecutor argued that Arias was trying to avoid being recorded on gas station security cameras as she drove to Mesa. In closing arguments on May 4th, Jodi's defense argued that the premeditation theory didn't make sense. Quote, what happened in that moment in time? The relationship of chaos that ended in chaos as well. There is nothing about what happened on June 4th in that bathroom that looks planned. Could it also be that everything they went through in that relationship that she simply snapped? Ultimately, if Miss Arias is guilty of any crime at all, it is the crime of manslaughter and nothing more. In rebuttal, Martinez described the extent and variety of Alexander's wounds. There is no evidence that he ever laid a hand on her, ever. Nothing indicates that this is anything less than a slaughter. There was no way to appease this woman who just wouldn't leave him alone, quote, end quote. Jodi's testimony added to a very long defense portion of the guilt phase of the trial, which led to problems with retention of jury members. On April 3rd, a jury member was dismissed for misconduct. The defense asked for a mistrial, which the judge denied. April 12th, another juror was dismissed for health reasons. A third juror was dismissed on April 25th after being arrested for a DUI offense. By April 25th, defense costs had reached almost $1.7 million. On May 7th, after 15 hours of deliberations, Jodi Arias was found guilty of first-degree murder. All 12 jurors found her guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, of which 7 additionally found her guilty of felony murder. As the verdict was read, Alexander's family smiled and hugged one another. Crowds outside the courtroom began cheering and chanting. If I was a 13th juror during that moment, I would have found Jodi Arias guilty too. The evidence was way too heavy not to miss a guilty verdict there. And on top of it, her testimony buried her. I mean, like I said, everything in Jodi Arias' testimony, if this was done on the Maury show, and she had it, and all the questions came out like Juan Martinez asked her, and she comes up with the answer she gave, I can easily hear with each answer Maury Povich saying, and the lie detector test determined that was a lie. And every time she come up with memory lapse, the fog, this, that, and the third, it will all come right back that the lie detector determined that was a lie. Her claim that Travis Alexander abused her. She was a victim of domestic abuse. The lie detector test determined that was a lie. Anybody who followed this case from beginning to end can become their own lie detector, and all they have to do is just listen to Jodi, and you would be able to say, the lie detector determined that was a lie. In the aggravation phase, following the conviction, the prosecution was required to convince the jury that the murder was cruel, heinous, or depraved for them to determine that Arias was eligible for the death penalty. The aggravation phase of the trial started on May 15th of 2013. The only witness was the medical examiner who performed Travis's autopsy. Jodi's attorneys, who had repeatedly asked to step down from the case, provided only brief opening statements and closing arguments in which they said that the adrenaline rushing through Alexander's body may have prevented him from feeling much pain during his death. Juan Martinez showed photos of the corpse and the crime scene to the jury, then paused for 2 minutes of silence to illustrate how long he claimed it took for Alexander to die. After less than 3 hours of consideration, the jury determined that Jodi was eligible for the death penalty. The penalty phase began on May 16th of 2013, when prosecutors called Alexander's family members to offer victim impact statements in an effort to convince the jury that Jodi's crime merited a death sentence. On May 21st, Jodi offered an allocution during which she pleaded for a life sentence. She acknowledged that her plea for life was a reversal of remarks she made to a television reporter shortly after her conviction, in which she had said that she preferred the death penalty. Each time I said that, I meant it, she said, end quote, but I lacked perspective. Until very recently, I could not imagine standing before you and asking you to give me life, end quote. She said that she changed her mind to avoid bringing more pain to members of her family who were in the courtroom. At one point, Jodi held up a white t-shirt with the word survivor written across from it, telling the jurors that she would sell the clothing and donate proceeds to victims of domestic abuse. She also said that she would donate her hair to Locks of Love while in prison, and had already done so 3 times while in jail. Should I say it now, or should I say it now? I mean, really. Even in her allocution, let me bring my wife's voice in on this, sweetheart. Should I say it before I keep going, or even in her allocution, the lie detector determined that was a lie, just as sure as I was watching it. She did not. She donated her hair to Locks of Love. She still had the same length hair during the trial as she had at this point. The time she was in jail, she still had the same length of hair. She didn't donate not one strand. Anyway, that evening in a joint jailhouse interview with Arizona Republic, KPNX TV, and NBC's The Today Show, Jodi said that she did not know whether the jury would decide on life or death. Quote, whatever they come back with, I will have to deal with it. I have no other choice, end quote. Regarding the verdict, she said, quote, it felt like a huge sense of unreality. I felt betrayed, actually, by the jury. I was hoping they would see things for what they are. I felt really awful for my family and what they were thinking, end quote. Let me go in and comment on this. Those 12 people who found Jodi Arias guilty was paying attention to the evidence and not necessarily paying attention to whatever came out of Jodi's mouth, because we all know everything that came out of Jodi Arias' mouth, the human lie detector and all of us determined that was a lie. On May 23rd, the sentencing phase of Jodi Arias' trial resulted in a hung jury. I wonder why. It prompted the judge to declare a mistrial for that phase. The jury had reached an 8-4 decision in favor of the death penalty. After the jury was discharged, jury foreman Cervaco stated that the jury found the responsibility of weighing the death sentence overwhelming, but were horrified when their efforts ended in a mistrial. Quote, by the end of it, we were mentally and emotionally exhausted. I think we were horrified when we found out that they had actually called a mistrial, and we felt like we had failed. End quote. On May 30th, Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery discussed the next steps of the news conference. He said that he was confident that an impartial jury could be seated, but it was possible that lawyers and the victim's family could agree to scrap the trial in favor of a life sentence with no parole. Jodi had said, "I don't think there is an untainted jury pool anywhere in the world right now. That's what it feels like. But I still believe in the system to a degree. So we'll just go through that if that happens." The defense attorneys responded, "If the diagnosis by the state psychologist is correct, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office is seeking to impose the death penalty upon a mentally ill woman who has no prior criminal history. It is not incumbent on Ms. Arias' defense counsel to resolve this case." End quote. During the trial, defense attorneys filed for a mistrial in January, April, and May of 2013. Jodi's lawyers argued that in January, that Esteban Flores, the lead Mesa police detective on the case, perjured himself during a 2009 pretrial hearing aimed at determining whether the death penalty should be considered an option for jurors. Flores testified at the 2009 hearing that based on his own review of the scene and a discussion with the medical examiner, it was apparent that Travis had been shot in the forehead first. Contrary to Flores' testimony, at the 2009 hearing, the medical examiner told jurors that the gunshot probably would have incapacitated Alexander. Given his extensive defense wounds, including stab marks, slashes to his hands, arms, and legs, it was not likely that the shot came first. Flores denied perjury and said that his trial testimony that he just misunderstood what the medical examiner told him. In April, the defense claimed that the prosecutor acted inappropriately and said the case resembled a modern-day equivalent to the Salem witch trials. In the motion, the defense team contended the, quote, prosecutorial misconduct has infested these proceedings with a level of unfairness that cannot be cured by any other means. The motion also stated that there is a circus-like atmosphere inside the courtroom, that Martinez had yelled at witnesses, attacked witnesses on a personal level, and had thrown evidence. The motion also alleged that Martinez chose to release evidence and to pose for pictures with his fans on the steps of the courthouse. The attorneys claimed Arias was in a position in which she could not present a complete defense and that the only constitutional course was to declare a mistrial. May 20th, 2013, defense attorneys filed a motion which alleged that a defense witness who had been due to testify the preceding Friday, the 17th, began receiving death threats for her scheduled testimony on Jodi's behalf. The day before the filing, the witness contacted counsel for Arias, stating that she was no longer willing to testify because of the threats. The motion continued, quote, "It should be noted that these threats followed those made to Alice Laviolette, a record of which was made ex parte and under seal," end quote. The motion was denied, as was a motion for a stay in the proceedings that had been sought to give time to appeal the decisions to the Arizona Supreme Court. May 29th, 2013, the Arizona Supreme Court declined to hear an appeal filed 3 months earlier, which was also refused by the mid-level Arizona Court of Appeals. Kirk Nurmi had asked the high court to throw out the aggravating factor of cruelty because the judge had allowed it to go forward based on a different theory of how the murder occurred. Really? You want to throw out cruelty? Let me see. 27 to 29 stab wounds. Slitting his throat in smiley face fashion, and a gunshot to the head, and you want to throw out cruelty? Don't think so. The lead detective originally claimed that the gunshot occurred first. That's wrong too. followed by the stabbing and slitting of the throat. Based on that theory, Stevens ruled that there was probable cause to find the crime had been committed in an especially cruel manner, an aggravating factor under state law. Subsequent to this initial hearing, the medical examiner testified that the gunshot occurred post-mortem. July 6, 2018, Jodi's current attorneys, Margaret Green and Corey Engel, filed a 24-page appeal seeking her murder conviction be overturned to the Court of Appeals. On October 17, 2019, Jodi's attorneys argued to the Court of Appeals that her sentence should be overturned on the basis that Juan Martinez acted inappropriately throughout the trial, resulting in a media frenzy and affecting the outcome of the trial. On March 24, 2020, the court held that notwithstanding egregious and self-promoting misconduct by the prosecutor, Jodi Arias had been convicted, quote, based upon the overwhelming evidence of her guilt, and upheld her conviction. On October 21st of 2014, Arias' sentencing retrial began. Opening statements were given and a hearing on evidence was held. Prosecution witness Amanda Webb called in the first trial to rebut Jodi's testimony that she returned a gas can to Walmart on May 8, 2007, admitted she did not know if all records were transferred after the store relocated. After a holiday break, the retrial resumed in January of 2015. Mesa police experts admitted that Travis's laptop had viruses and pornography, contrary to testimony in the first trial of 2013. Jury deliberations began on February 12th of 2015. On March 2nd, 2015, the judge informed Judge Stevens that they were deadlocked. Jodi's attorneys requested a mistrial. This time, Judge Stevens denied the request, read additional instructions to the jury, and ordered them to resume deliberations. On March 5th, 2015, Stevens declared a mistrial because the jurors, who deliberated for about 26 hours over 5 days, deadlocked at 11-1 in favor of the death penalty. The 11 jurors in favor of the death penalty indicated that the sole holdout was sympathetic to Jodi and had an agenda. Why was I not surprised then? Why am I not surprised now? In an interview on April 8, 2015, Jodi Arias' attorney Jennifer Wilmot discussed the social media furor, death threats she received, Jodi's statements at sentencing, the holdout juror, and stated that she believed that Arias testified truthfully. And I may want to get 2 different frappes. I can get one from Starbucks for 50 cents. Babe, how much is your frappe? Sentencing was scheduled April 7, 2015, with Stevens having the option to sentence Jodi Arias to either life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, or with the possibility of parole after 25 years. On April 13th, Judge Stevens sentenced Arias to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. By March 5th, Arias' trial cost an estimated $3 million. Yeah, $3 million. In an interview on April 8th, Jodi Arias' attorney Jennifer Wilmot discussed the social media in June 2015. Following a restitution hearing, Jodi was ordered to pay more than $32,000 to Travis Alexander's siblings. Her attorney stated this was about 1/3 of the amount requested. As of now, Jodi Arias is housed at the Arizona Department of Corrections, inmate number 281129. which is located at the Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville. She started her sentence in the complex's maximum security Lumley unit, but has since been downgraded to the medium security level. So I'm going to go ahead and kill this right here and say that Jodi Arias got exactly what she was looking for. And I got a comment here. Oh, from Patriotism USA. Hey, enjoying the stream. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate the love and support. Anyway, as I was saying, Jodi Arias got exactly what she deserved as far as sentencing, but I still think she should be held in maximum security because y'all may not believe it, but if you pay attention to the case back then, you see just how dangerous Jodi Arias really was. Now, I've got one thing left to go over, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this edition of Bethea's Byte. And that has to do with the two North Carolina parents who were charged with murder in the first degree of their newborn baby. And let's see. And here we go. A North Carolina couple has been charged with murder after the remains of their newborn baby were found in their backyard. 28-year-old Dustin Van Dyke and 18-year-old Gracie Riddle have both been charged with killing their... There's a message for you. That's coming. That little message was coming from my message form. I'll get to that when I'm through here. 28-year-old Dustin Van Dyke and 18-year-old Gracie Riddle have both been charged with killing the infant last year. Police tell WRAL-TV, Raleigh, North Carolina, that they believe the baby has been dead since approximately Thanksgiving of 2021. The investigation began after police received a report that the couple's baby had died, but the death had never been reported. Authorities brought cadaver dogs and searched the couple's property in Irwin, North Carolina, which is approximately 20 miles outside of Fayetteville. They made the grim discovery on Saturday. With the assistance of Harnett County Sheriff's Department's cadaver canine, investigators discovered a deceased and badly decomposed infant buried behind the residence. That's according to a press release from the Irwin Police Department, according to the Daily Record. Police did not publicly name the tipster, but they say that they likely knew about the infant's death for several months. I think this person just finally got to the point where their conscience got to them and they decided they need to talk about it and tell someone. That's how we initially got the report, end quote. That's coming from Police Chief Jonathan Johnson to WRAL-TV. According to CBS 17, police have been unable to determine the sex of the baby. The medical examiner's office will conduct an autopsy to determine the baby's cause of death. Authorities didn't disclose a motive in the case. And People magazine confirmed that both Van Dyke and Riddle have been charged with one count of first-degree murder. They're being held without bond, and they have not yet entered a plea, and court records do not reflect an attorney authorized to speak on their behalf. Now, I don't know. I really don't know. Who would kill a newborn baby and then bury him? I'll agree. That's why they're being charged with first degree murder. Anyway, as I'm commenting on this case, I've got apparently I have a Casey Anthony fan jumping in on YouTube. Remember we have to remember they're innocent until proven guilty. Casey Anthony is innocent. I'm the only one here. Well, so you being the case, but long-standing Casey Anthony fan, or should I say Casey Anthony stan? The only reason why she's innocent is because the jury found her that way. Just because the jury says you're not guilty doesn't necessarily mean you're innocent. Let's get that right. Now back to the newborn that was found buried, and the parents that are charged with first degree murder. I'm gonna stick on this case. I'm gonna find out if there's any other evidence to back up the claim of first degree murder, and I will get back to you right here at Bethea's Byte. So stick with me. I will have all the information on this case as I can get it. But as of right now, that's a wrap for Bethea's Byte. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for watching the replay. And like I said, it's been 2 weeks. I'm back. I'm better than ever. So I'll be back ready to do this again come next week. Same time, same place. And yeah, that Casey Anthony, that CA is cool. Yeah, I'll probably be a Casey fan. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be back next week. Until next time, you know what to do from here. Byte this. Hey everybody, this is the Last Outlaw. I want to thank you all so much for watching this edition of Bethea's Byte. I've said it many times over that you are the engine that keeps Bethea's Byte going. Be sure to follow Bethea's Byte and Bethea's Byte Reloaded all over social media. Follow me on Facebook at the Last Outlaw 316 on my personal page, or the Bethea's Byte Reloaded page at Bethea's Byte Reloaded. Follow, like, share, leave a comment for me. Let me hear from you. Follow me on Twitter at EKB316. Follow, like, retweet, share, leave me a comment. I want to hear your thoughts. Hit me up on YouTube at user/EKB316. Like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment, and be sure to ring that notification bell for future videos. Swing by the message forum at Bethea'sByte.com. Register, log in, leave a comment, get in on the conversation and the investigation. Drop me an email at kingofhearts316_09@outlook.com. In the subject line, put in Bethea's Byte Reloaded, but keep your comments clean, as they may be read live. I'll have videos and links for the missing and true crime cases on my new Instagram account at EB the Last Outlaw. I still won't mind you giving me a comment or two. Let me know what you're thinking. This is the home for news, opinions, debates, your voice, and justice served. This is Bethea's Byte, and it's reloaded.